Yeah. Siege. Riley. Taz. Yeah. Set me free and give me death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down to go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices. Little whispers in my head, man, is you fake a lawyer? Why no water, that designer, baby, pick your poison. These little demons living underneath my bed, creeping. Know the real monster lives above them all, sleeping. That subtle breathing in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again, looks can be deceiving. When they hear the sound of the drum, they'll be saying, oh Lord, here they come. Yeah, here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Here we come. I used to think that people die because they wicked. Nowadays people wanna see you dead because you gifted. Been ready for my tomb since I came up out the womb. So no matter what, I'm coming back and paying you a visit. Saw it coming, I predicted, but y'all wouldn't listen. No, you can't protect your riches if you never burn bridges. Flip pages, went places, made changes, still dangerous. Now I'm back, altercation, hold still. I make it painless how it feel, baby. When you say you love me, is it real, baby? Full speed, both hands on the wheel, baby. Young Taz coming from the Mobile, baby. You know the drill, baby. Yeah. And when you hear the sound of the drum, we'll be saying, here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come. Yeah. Siege. Riley. Taz. Yeah. Set me free and give me death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down to go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices. Little whispers in my head, man, is you fake a lawyer? Why no water, that designer, baby, pick your poison. These little demons living underneath my bed, creeping. Know the real monster lives above them all, sleeping. That subtle breathing in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again.
Run that back one more time. What is up, guys? This is DDP. I am back for another edition of, you want to call it Mavs Fast Break, you want to call it Feeling Dangerous, I don't really care. Call it what you want to call it. But we are back to do a little bit more Mavs talk before the Cowboys season gets in full swing. If you were paying attention to the channel earlier today, I did address that there is going to be some channel schedule tweaks a little bit, and things are going to get very busy very soon. But fear not, the weekly Mavs talk will not be going away. It's just going to move from Sundays, where it is roughly now, usually as early as 2 o'clock, but where it is now, to Wednesday nights instead. I understand that could impact some of the live viewership as we have beautiful followers from all over the world, but there's not really an adjustment I can make because the list of articles and streams and obligations that I have, plus the return of Cowboys football starting next week, there's just not a whole lot of leeway for me to work that in. So before we get going too far in here, first in the house, reclaiming his title, we have Gle. Gle, you were slipping for a minute, buddy. You missed out on being the first guy a couple streams in a row, a couple weeks in a row as a result. And now you were right there today to claim it back. So proud of you for getting it together there, buddy. AC Mavericks 1899, hot on his heels. Well, you were second. Spencer Ruiz, what's up? He's calling out as well. Glad getting his title back. Can't catch him. What's good? Yes, sir. So this is a new intro. Let me know what you think. There is a little bit of an Easter egg to that, a little bit of foreshadowing, if you will, for something down the road. I don't want to get too far ahead of it, and when the time's right, I will properly announce it. But all the same, I am ready to talk a little bit of Mavericks and to give you guys the latest basically the latest schedule for the Dallas Prospect channel, because things around here are about to get ridiculously crazy busy for me. But that's fine, because you guys are about to get more content per week than you've ever gotten from this channel. Mavericks content, Cowboys content, you'll get college football content if you're a fan of the Sea Hill testing. I don't know what you're testing, but checking out the channel, appreciate it all the same. But you're going to get basically more content than you have ever gotten from here. I'm curious, if someone wants to test out the alert box, I've got it set up. Any new subscribers we get should pop up roughly on the whiteboard. Let me see here. Yeah, on the whiteboard over my shoulder. And that includes any subscribers we get. If you donate through Super Chat, it should actually play the audio, and you should actually be able to hear the readout of your comment on there. So that's something, if you want to test it for a cent. I don't care. But check that out as well. I set that up previously, but I keep forgetting to mention it to you guys. All the same, you're going to get Mavericks, Cowboys, college football. You're going to get some wild card content as well, such as if you're interested at all in WWE content, or if you're interested in any kind of preview stuff, any kind of pop culture stuff as well. You'll get all of that content from the channel still, because again, without putting too much forward, giving you guys too much of an idea on what I've been working towards and what I've been kind of quietly going about doing in the background, stuff that even Innie doesn't know the full extent to. It's right there. The opportunity is there. And I've been saying for 2 years since I started this channel, I was going to change the game. And I know that sounds like a vague, amorphous statement where it's like, what does that even mean, to change the game? I've been reluctant to give an actual definition, but I always knew what I wanted to do with it. And if I can put this together in the next 6 months, you'll see that. So setting that aside, I'll get into this. I'm going to follow the board on my side here. We're going to do a little bit of Mavs Fast Break. I just kind of did the state of the channel, so I've already kind of broken the hierarchy there. But I'll give you the new schedule as well. So let me shout out Gabriel Paulin, what's up? And C Hill, what's good? Let's go here. So I posted earlier basically saying when we are going to be running, and I wanted to take a couple suggestions from people on just what they wanted to talk about. This is like an open forum Q&A type session here, and we're going to do some Mavs talk, probably about 30 minutes of Mavs talk, and then we're going to pivot into some of this other stuff as well related to the channel, and then we're going to round it out and sign off. So, Galea, what's good? Darreck is going to announce he's declaring for the NBA draft. Dude, I wish. Actually, at this point, I really don't wish. My back could not hold up to it at this point. But that would be legit if I got to that point. All right, Sea Hill. Peace. Sorry it wasn't whatever you were looking for. But all the same, we're going to talk some Mavericks here. First topic I had up. Someone, Gabriel Fusta, wanted to know how I would define a great, mediocre, or disappointing season for the Mavericks. So how I would grade each of those. I mean, a great season is kind of, I'm going to go with like the latter of what I would consider a great season. If the Mavericks get into the playoffs, I don't care what the circumstance, it's a great season. Bouncing back and getting into the playoffs is a great season. Because again, they won 33 games last year. And if they can bounce back to the point of, I mean, think about it. The Clippers won 48 games last year as the 8th seed. That's 15 games better than the Mavericks. I said the floor for me for a good year is one game over 500. At least 500, but really one game over 500. So let's say 43 and 41, if my dumbass math makes sense. At that point, that is what I would classify as I punch my mic. That is what I would classify as a good Mavericks season. And I know that feels very low bar, but it shows substantial growth. It gives us a year of Luka and KP playing together. We know that the cap space situation looks very good for the Mavericks, even with the signings we did. And even though we've got several guys under contract for the next 2 or 3 years, I think 3 years, like 9 of the guys are under contract for at least the next 3 seasons. But it gives you a lot more to look forward to as you grow. Because again, as good as Luka and KP have been, we have to remember we're talking about a 23-year-old. I think he might have just actually turned 24, KP, and a 20-year-old Luka Doncic. Like, this is a young superstar tandem. So we need to be a little bit understanding of that. That said, I think the Mavericks are going to be a much better team than they were last year. I predicted, I think 44 wins for them was what I predicted previously as currently constructed. And I said that if they could make a trade near the deadline, something of significance, not necessarily a superstar, but get that third guy, that third man in your new world order of Mavericks basketball, that at that point you could push for the playoffs through stealing some games late that you might have not have been able to prior to the trade. So for me, a great season is getting into the playoffs. If you get in, great. If you can somehow get to a game 6, let's say, so still, I know that sounds crazy. You're like, game 6, dude, that means you're right on the doorstep of a 7-game series. True, but if you think about it, even a 6-game series means one team won twice as much as the other. So if you can get to a game 6 in a series, that is stellar. To me, that's above great. That is stellar for your first year. God forbid if you somehow get out of the first round, because as a 7 or 8 seed, like you'll probably be, that would be historic levels upset, and I'm not even going to put too much time and energy in that, at least until we see where the team is and how our matchup looks around that time. A good season, I said it. To me, it's one game over 500. A disappointing season or a disastrous season would be if we were still somewhere in that 35 win range and health was still nagging for not only KP, but also if we had something flare up for Luka. That could, I don't feel like that's likely, but that could undermine a lot of the good vibes that we have going on around the team right now, and I don't want that. So it is what it is. Hawk runs 4, Derek the GOAT. Much love from 214. Appreciate you. A lot of people sleeping on us hard, says Gle. I agree. Great is the second round easily. Good is playoffs, period. Disappointing would be less wins than last year. But see, even that, Kent, you're leaving a wide range, right? Disappointing would be less wins than last year. That means you're talking 32 wins to, even if we set the standard of last year, 48 wins for the 8 seed. That's 16 games. And you're talking about good being just getting out of the first round. Right? Is that what I saw? Let me see. Good as playoffs, period. Okay. I feel like that's too much gray area in there. I feel like it's a little bit more clustered than that. But all the same, I respect your opinion. Who would you like to see Dallas make a trade for anytime this season? I'm actually working on an article for that for Dallas Sports Fanatic. It's in its early stages, but I'm still in the researching phase. I'm going to break down a list of probably 3 or 4 trades that I want the Mavericks to explore. I know, going off of the post I had earlier, somebody asked, Dallas Mavs asked me if the Mavericks could get a Blake Griffin trade at the deadline, who would they have to give up for him, basically? If they could make the trade, and then what would it take to get him, essentially? I feel like that is so far outside of our limit for what we have the assets to trade. I know we have the Harrison Barnes $11 million, nearly $12 million trade exception, and that's going to open up a lot of possibility there. But you do also have to consider, just off the top of my head, I'm not going to go deep into that analysis. Just off the top of my head, you're sending probably Brunson, Jackson. You might be able to shed Courtney Lee, but even then, you're still talking $17 million compared to $34 million that Blake is slated to make this year. So money-wise, you got a problem. So if you threw in the exception, then that's another 12. At that point, you've basically taken the 17 and turned it into a $5 million deficit for the trade to work. Now, the Mavericks could have some space in cap space. You know what? If I think I remember the Mavericks had about $13 million, I want to say, that they did not use this summer. So they have that room. You know what? You might not have to use all of that then, but the Mavericks would probably want to send one of their bad contracts out, be it a Tim Hardaway Jr. or this year with Luka at the 2. But all the same, I mean, or 2 or 3, however you want to position them. It's basically seamless basketball at this point anyway, fluid. But that's probably what I'm thinking in that regard. I would say for the Mavericks, it's probably outside of their limit, but you would be looking at giving up at least those 3 plus that using that exception. And even then, the return for Detroit doesn't look like it justifies it to me. Let's see here. Oh, and for anyone wondering why I'm not wearing the Rondo jersey, it's because this is not a pure Mavs Fast Break stream. I'm actually repping, as I move into the camera, the ProjectShanks.com website shirt. Project Shanks was what I was doing right before Mavs Fast Break, before Dallas Prospect, which spawned Mavs Fast Break. And it was a site that my friend started. I was their Mavericks beat writer. Through the website, I got about 24 games where I got media credentials for the Mavericks single game media passes, and that got me into like the locker room to see Dirk and do pregame interviews with Cuban while he's doing the whole Stairmaster routine with the media, Rick Carlisle postgame pressers, all that good stuff. So I'm trying to work to get Dallas Prospect back to that level where I can do it myself. I do know that I will have credentials throughout this season through Dallas Sports Fanatic, at least for a dozen games probably. So that's good, but I want to get to that point with Prospect by itself where I don't have to lean on some of these writing gig resources that I have, but all the same. Adam Proctor, what's up? Let's see here. Long time no talk, old friend. Off topic here. I hope OU throttles Holgerson tonight. Yeah, OU versus Houston tonight. I got some college football watching to do. And if you weren't here earlier, Adam, I will be doing college football again this year. It won't necessarily be a live stream, but it will at least be the pre-recorded videos. That'll be Mondays following the games. So look for that. Let's see here. Glad, who's better, Prime Dirk or Prime KG? I'm going to say, I mean, if you're talking all-around game, it gets muddy because KG was a beast defensively and Dirk was never a beast. He was just underrated defensively in some seasons. Dirk is who changed the game, man. The stretch 4 is not in vogue like it is now, if not for Dirk. And when they went head-to-head in the playoffs, both in their prime, really Dirk just starting to enter his prime in 2002, Dirk whooped that ass. So in that regard, I'm going to say Dirk. I know that's the popular answer here because it's Mavs Fast Break, obviously, and this is the Dallas Prospect. But I'm going to say in terms of the bigger footprint on NBA history, it's Dirk. Dirk deserves a mural at the least. He'll get a statue outside the AAC. He'll get his jersey retired. He'll get a lot of great stuff. It's all coming. It just hasn't been announced yet. Let's see here. There's no way we make any trade this year. Sorry, next year might have something up our sleeve. I don't know why you say there's no way we make any trade this year, Kent. I think the Mavericks have a track record of making big moves at the deadline. And I know that even last year, the KP trade, the Mavericks have a ton of cap space they didn't use in free agency. And the reason I think they have that cap space open is because it gives them more flexibility at the deadline. They know this is not a championship roster, saying they need that. I liken this to, even though they only played together about a year total, I liken this to Dallas swinging the Wizards trade for Caron Butler, Brennan Haywood, and Deshaun Stevenson. They sent out Josh Howard. I know I just did that as a fourth option when it was a different item, but still. They sent out Josh Howard in 2009, 2010, at the deadline. Got those 3 guys. They played out the rest of the season. They got Tyson Chandler and the ship team, but they were not the focal points of it. Caron Butler was the number 2 scoring option to Dirk, and we didn't get to see it in the championship year because in January he ruptures his patella tendon. His kneecap's completely dislocated and pushed halfway up his thigh. Like the madman he is, feeling no pain. There's a reason his nickname was Tough Juice. He just basically takes his fist and starts bashing it into place while he's still lying on the court, and then walks to the freaking back locker room like an absolute madman. Frankly, he probably did more damage to it doing that, but we only got that one, not even a calendar year. We got half of one season and barely half of another, not even half of another, of Caron plus Dirk. But that's what I'm talking about. A trade for a 3-and-D type guy that fits in as your clear third man. That is what Dallas needs. If they can get a superstar and it's a practical, reasonable deal and the fit looks like it would work, like Luka KP looks like peanut butter and jelly. Like that should work perfect. If you can find another guy that is of that caliber and fits and makes sense, go for it. If not, then you need to question a little bit on, are you reaching for the name or are you looking at the fit intently? Let's see here. Mark Cuban, let's argue. On what grounds? I mean, where are we arguing from? I came in and we got Brunson in a trade. Oh, no. Big homie from the D. No. Someone was giving a hypothetical. If the Mavericks made a Blake Griffin trade, what would it cost? And I threw in Brunson as a asset. I don't think we have the assets to even pull off the trade, but if we were to pull off the trade, Brunson would be a must in that, because I don't think that they're looking too much at Reggie Jackson as a long-term solution for them. I mean, they might be stuck with him for a little bit, but I don't think he's panned out like they hoped he would. Costa, what's up? Who fits the Luka KP duo best? An unselfish off-ball all-around player like Draymond Green, a stretch five like Brook Lopez, or a three-point sniper like Danny Green? I would say you want a 3-and-D guy, so I would lean toward it. Like, now, Danny Green, not specifically because he's in his 30s. Well, obviously, we know he's gone now off the table. I would say someone like that, because KP is a great rim protector, but not great in terms of horizontal foot speed. He's 7'3". He's a big dude. He's not especially fast. If you compare his athleticism and speed to what Dirk's was, I know Dirk is 7 foot, not 7'3", but Dirk in his prime was more agile, I think, than KP for sure. And so I would say a 3-and-D guy makes all the sense in the world, because the floor spacing that Luka and KP are going to bring to him, to that third dude, is going to be tremendous. And I think Luka's passing ability is going to open up just untold amounts of space for this guy that he might not have ever seen necessarily before. So that's the kind of guy I would look for. The Brook Lopez, the stretch five, that would be great, but I think the foot speed would be a problem, comparatively speaking. I know you're talking about a Brook Lopez type, not necessarily Brook Lopez himself, because he's with the Bucks, but still, I stand by that. And Draymond Green, that's hard to argue for any team. Any team could use a Draymond Green. But with KP being a natural 4 and preferring not to play center, Draymond as a little bit of an undersized power forward, although capable, would be not a perfect fit necessarily. Dirk would never not win 50 games and never miss the playoffs like KG. Dirk had 12 straight 50-win seasons with the Mavericks. It finally got snapped in 2012-13. They ran it back one more year after the title, got swept by the Thunder in the first round, and then the next year was the bearded year where they grew the 500 beards, where it was like, until we get back to 500, no one on this team is shaving, and that's what pushed them over the top. They got to 500, but they never got into the playoffs. They were the 9 seed, I think, that year, 9th in the West. So that's how that worked out, but yeah, that is, I get your point. KG missed the playoffs a handful of times with the Timberwolves, and he did not win 50 games. But part of that is the coaching and the roster building as well. But I get your point, and I do agree on some level. Tayshaun Prince is someone I'd like to see in a Mavs jersey. I think Tayshaun is so beyond his glory days, it's crazy. He was a huge part of that 04 Pistons team that upset the Lakers in the finals. So I think that ship has kind of sailed, but I get the idea. A Tayshaun in his prime would be primo for us. Reggie Jackson 1-year deal. Like the Mavericks bringing in Reggie Jackson? No, I don't want Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson's a ball-dominant point guard, and I don't think he's a high assist numbers guy. I mean, I saw him with OKC before he went to Detroit, and I saw how cancerous he became in OKC before leaving, so I'm passing on Reggie. Is Mark Cuban still a good owner, or are you on the payroll and can't discuss? C-Hill, I am on no payroll at all. Is he a good owner? I think define good, right? Like, are we saying, because he's not the one who makes the deals. I know he's part of the recruiting process, but he's not the one making the deals. That's more about Donnie Nelson, because I know Cuban kind of works as like a GM in that sense, but I always figured the basketball guy is Donnie Nelson. And to me, Cuban's enthusiasm for the team is still there. I still believe he wants to win. But are you asking me, like, if you're asking me about the tandem of Cuban and Donnie, do I still believe in them, and are they still top tier at their respective positions in the NBA? That's where it gets grayer for me. I mean, pulling off the KP trade, and let's not forget, Luka was a trade too. They had to engineer that to get Luka because they had the third best odds. They fell down to 5 because the lottery has never once smiled upon our little Dallas Mavericks. So they had to make the trade that ended up being Luka Doncic. They had to make the blockbuster for KP, and I think that will be a massive move that shapes the next 10 years of Mavericks basketball. They've made some big moves, but if you look at the years prior to that, you still see, at the very least, bold attempts. The Rondo trade, utter disaster, but you know what? It was bold because they looked at the team, and as great as that offense was, that Mavericks offense in 2014-15 season, that was historically good Mavericks basketball, offensively speaking, at the time. But the point guard position was a great weakness for them with Jameer Nelson. They were limited, to say the least, defensively, even with Tyson Chandler back. And they knew that they had to do something drastic. And so their answer was to lean on a battle-tested, considered elite at the time, point guard in Rajon Rondo. But they didn't really, I don't think, consider the fit of Rajon Rondo. They looked at the name, and I mentioned that earlier. You got to look at the name and understand when to set the name aside in terms of the fit. Rondo, no outside game whatsoever. Not much offensive game, but certainly no outside shooting. Ball dominant. What did we already have on that team? Monte Ellis, who was ball dominant. Especially with Jameer Nelson being not much of a factor, you really leaned on Monte to create for the offense. So that was not a good pairing because Monte's not an outside shooter either. So suddenly you had 2 of your 5 guys, really 3 of your 5 guys who couldn't even shoot from outside because obviously what were we running at center at the time? It was Tyson, it was Brendan Wright. They're not outside shooters for anything. They're rim runners and rim protectors. So at that point, you had 2 guys on the floor that could shoot mid-range and outward. That is a disaster. That is an utter disaster. It killed the spacing of the team on the offensive end. You had 2 guys suddenly who weren't productive without the ball in their hands, that being Rondo and Ellis, and it just poisoned the locker room. So it failed, but I understand Dallas feeling like they had to do something and they swung for the fences. Cuban honestly thought that he was going to have a new foundation moving forward of Rondo, Monte, Chandler Parsons, Dirk, and Tyson moving forward. He thought he had his 5 guys in place for the next 2 to 3 years. It just didn't work out, and I admit I was psyched about the Rondo trade, and it was only in the coming month before it just became obvious. It was over the course of that first probably 2 or 3 weeks that I started looking at that and was like, I believe in Rick Carlisle as a coach to figure something out, but I don't think this is it. This isn't right. This isn't good. This is such a far cry from the exciting brand of basketball we were just playing. I don't think this can possibly work. So it is what it is. I would say Cuban, he's bold. He'll swing for the fences. He's not afraid of making the big move, but he does have a mixed bag of a track record when it comes to succeeding with it, right? Cuban historically has been atrocious in the draft. Obviously, Luka was a home run. Dennis was a mixed bag as well, but you were able to flip him for KP, so I don't argue that so much. But under Cuban, I'd say he's not middle of the road. I'd say he's a step above that, but I don't consider him an elite level owner or anything like that. And I would say the same goes for Donnie Nelson, although I have more respect for Donnie than I have for Mark. Hope that answers your question, C Hill. The QC, what's up? Hitting that like. Appreciate you, fam. Man, I'm really curious. Let me refresh the cache on this. If someone wants to subscribe, if you're not subscribed or something, I want to see. I want to see if this alert box is working or if I got to tinker with the code a little bit again. It should be popping up over the shoulder on the whiteboard. If it's a super chat, if it's a subscriber, something like that, it should pop up. Donate a cent for all I care. It's not like I'm trying to twist your arm for money. I'm just curious if the thing actually works. I guess I could try and open up and run the test on it, but let me see. Gabriel, how about trading for Yusef Nurkic? The Blazers already have Hassan Whiteside and Zach Collins. That could be interesting for sure, and that's one of those guys that I am looking into for my trade piece. So I don't want to give my full analysis on that, but that guy is on my radar. I'll say that Yusef is. And no the Prince on the Nets. Oh, I'd have to look. I haven't looked a whole lot at the Nets, admittedly. Cuban runs it more like a business. Agreed. DDP is about to join the Mavericks. He'll be the starting point guard and just doesn't want to tell us. I will not be a good starting point guard. Our record will decidedly be worse than the 33 wins from last year if I am your point guard. 99 cents from the QC. Appreciate you, fam. Let me see. It should take a moment to pop up here over my shoulder. I just refreshed the cache. Come on, don't disappoint me. The alert box, not you. The OC, the QC. Huh. I'm going to have to look at that code. Should pop up and, I mean, I feel like it should have already happened, but there it is.
Here we go. Money talk. Here comes the money.
So I think if you had a comment with that, the QC, like if you had said like, here's a donation or something like that, you would have had like the voice read off your actual comment as well. But appreciate you. Does Justin Jackson have potential as a 3 and D player? I absolutely think so, Alejandro. I absolutely think so. I wrote recently for Dallas Sports Fanatic making the case for Justin Jackson to be the last starter for the Mavericks. So you'd be running with Luka, you'd be running with KP, DeLon Wright. We know that they're going to run with Dwight Powell as the center because Rick Carlisle's system needs a rim running center. And I made the argument for the fifth man instead of Dorian Finney-Smith. And I went into advanced analytics, so I even acknowledged where Finney-Smith is a better defender than Justin Jackson. But I think Jackson has the higher ceiling. But I went into all of that, and I basically made the case for Justin Jackson to be your starting small forward for the Mavericks. I think he has a lot of 3-and-D potential. Let's see here. Dallas County Scratcher, what's good? Sriracha? How do I say your name? What's up, fam? If you had to grade the offseason, what grade would you give? I feel like the Mavericks, it wasn't... The problem is we were overpromised, right? We had Jeff Skinwade out there. We had all kinds of Dallas media and even national media telling us, ooh, the Mavericks are up to something big. Ooh, they're going to do something. Ooh, something's happening. A lot of teams are talking about the Mavericks. A lot of free agents, a lot of agents are talking about the Mavericks. Oh, Luka, KP, and one more. Who is it? It didn't come to fruition, though. So we all kind of sat back, and, Annie and I ran the stream at the start of free agency that day, and we were kind of like looking at each other like, hey, we got KP, and, he's locked up for 5 years. That's awesome. But then we're kind of like looking around at all the other stuff going on, and it's like, is Dallas going to do anything else today? Do you know? And he's like, I don't know. I mean, it's been like 3 hours of this stream and nothing else has happened. So our initial impression was bad. But it got better because I feel like they had as the Mavericks have a tendency to do, their scramble mode is pretty good. Seth Curry, I believe it was a 4-year, $32 million deal, $8 million a year. That is quality for him. Not even kidding. I hated. If you followed this channel for more than a year, you know I hated losing out on Seth Curry last year as he went to Portland. So having him back and locked up long term, I'm ecstatic because his best year of his career, he shot 45% last year from three, and that's great. Good for him. He's a career 42% three-point shooter. His best year of his career was here in Dallas for the one season he played with us. He missed his whole second year due to a stress reaction in his leg, but he averaged over 12 points a game, I think 12 and a half points a game, like 59% true shooting percentage, 42% from three. He started 42 games for us. That's the only place in his career he's ever been a regular starter. I don't think he's going to be a starter here. I think he's better suited coming off of the bench, but I like him as that kind of six-man type role and what he can bring. He is so much more than just the three-point shooter people recognize him as. His catch and shoot three-point percentage is like, it's over 50% last season. I mean, he is a phenomenal addition next to Luka and KP and DeLon Wright, who's a good passer too. I know DeLon Wright's not a good shooter yet, but alongside those other guys and with DeLon Wright being a good passer, Seth Curry is right at home back here in Dallas. Boban, that's a great locker room guy. That's a guy who you can't play him every night. You certainly can't start him, but you know what? He's effective. He has a high basketball IQ, and he has a physical presence that few people can challenge. So when you do get to use him in a game, as long as you know how to protect him, he can make a pretty significant impact on some of these games. I like it. There were other moves. Obviously, the DeLon Wright trade itself. For what they got, remember this. They traded down. They were 37th pick in the draft. They traded down to 45 and collected 2 second-round picks, in addition to getting Isaiah Roby, who they swear up and down was A, who they always wanted, and B, the kind of project player they really like. Now, I see a lot of what they liked about Isaiah Roby, but he is a project nevertheless. I don't know that he'll ever make a significant impact on this team, but he has the potential. And at pick 45, why not? The thing is, though, they took those 2 second-round picks and they flipped them to the Grizzlies in a sign-and-trade for DeLon Wright because they knew, hey, Cuban and Donnie Nelson told us their second call on free agency after they knew they were out of the Kimba sweepstakes, they called KP, and then they called DeLon Wright. Now, we looked at that, and I challenged it, too. I was like, I don't know about that, man. You're going to tell me that was your second call? The reason was, when they knew that they were out on the Kimba Walker market, they said, okay, we want effective point guard play, not big bang for buck kind of thing. We don't want to have to go with like a Pat Bev and pay $45 million or whatever it is for a guy that's already over 30 and a guy who, while good now, he's not going to get better than he is right now. He's going to, have a slow kind of decline in that regard. So they went with an underrated guy and DeLon Wright. But the thing is, if they had signed DeLon Wright to an offer sheet that day at the open of free agency, he was a restricted free agent. The Grizzlies were going to match, or the Mavericks would have had to ride out the 3-day moratorium period, hoping that they weren't going to do that, in which case that additional money would have been tied up in the DeLon Wright situation. And we saw what happened with that a few years ago with the DeAndre Jordan situation in 2015. It's a disaster. You don't want it. It is stressful as hell. And the Mavericks have gotten burned, not just with DeAndre, but even years prior in the past with Marcin Gortat and the Orlando Magic when he was Dwight Howard's backup. The Mavericks did not want to let that happen again. And so they wisely said, hey, Memphis is in kind of a rebuild mode. DeLon's not even necessarily a starter for them because he's not, because they just got Ja Morant. So this makes a lot of sense, actually, to give them a couple picks and a sign-in trade for DeLon Wright, and he can be a starter here. So for him, it's appealing to come to us because we're the first team, not just with exciting young assets, but the first team that's going to let him be a everyday starter. So it made sense. And I think that is going to prove to be a very underrated move the Mavericks made. I shrugged it off at the time. I was like, okay, I've seen a little bit of him. I saw what he did against us a couple times late in the year, but it means nothing to me. I've looked deeper into it, and now I'm kind of thinking, yeah, you know what? That's not a bad signing. That's not a bad sign-in trade. So it is what it is, man. But I like it. I think the Mavericks, this has been a very long-winded, roundabout answer for me to say, I think I would give the Mavericks a C plus for the free agency, but I think it has the potential to be a B. That feels a little bit out there, but in ambitious terms, I feel like a B could be fair depending on how these guys fit together, if they fit as well as we think they're going to, and if DeLon Wright can be the kind of player that I'm seeing now and that I'm thinking he's going to be for us, then I think you're going to look at his contract and be like, dude, that was an absolute steal for not a superstar point guard, not an all-star point guard, just a quality point guard who fits well within what we're trying to do. I think you'll look back on it and be pretty happy about it. Let me see. B plus offseason says AC Mavericks. Mark's a trash can. Oh, Mark, don't. Oh, you're talking about Mark Cuban or you're talking about yourself? Don't talk about yourself like that, Mark. If you're talking about Mark Cuban, say what you want, man. Say what you feel. It's really disheartening to know that Rondo didn't work out in Dallas. I love his game and the way he carried himself on the court. But that's also from me watching from afar. Yeah, Rondo clashed with Rick and it never got anywhere. Perfect analysis on Cuban and the Rondo trade, says LeSueur. You, sir, have come a long way since you started, bro. Still could use a haircut, though. Appreciate you, LeSueur, even though you got bad taste in my haircut and my need for one. Appreciate you, fam. Let's see. The QC almost needed my 99 cents back. Hey, if you really want it, I can send it back to you. Not a problem. It's a badass effect. Appreciate you. Brett Bender, what's good? I wish Goran Dragic trade happened during the stream and y'all's live reaction. That would have been crazy if the on again, off again, and then finally off again trade with the Miami Heat happened related to Goran Dragic. I wasn't kidding when I said the last time Minnie was on here with me, I said, hey man, it's a dangerous game to be even remotely critical of Goran Dragic on this stream because inevitably there's going to be someone from Slovenia or something like that who watches the stream after the fact and then gets really mad at me, even if the worst thing I say is that he missed a lot of games last year or that I don't think he fits the timeline for the team. It happens. He's a good player. He's done a lot in his career, but you would think some of the people think I'm dishonoring him, his family, and his dog or something like that. Not at all. Not at all. The worst thing I ever said was that I was incorrect in his age. I guessed 35 off the top of my head. It's 33, almost 34. That's the worst thing I ever said about Goran Dragic. Let's see here. Rangers King, what's up? Jason Bryant. Every time anyone tries to predict the Mavs season, they make predictions as if Jason Garrett is the Mavs coach. Put some respect on Rick's name. Man, I feel you, man. I feel you. Rick Carlisle has been, because we as a franchise and with the talent we've had in recent years, has not been very good. People forget how good Rick Carlisle is. Go back and look at the Mavericks, the 8-seeded Mavericks against the 1-seeded San Antonio Spurs. When the Spurs went on their revenge tour in 2014, the 13-14 season, the Spurs dismantling LeBron's Miami Heat in the finals that year. The only team to test them was the Dallas Mavericks. The 8-seeded Dallas Mavericks pushed them to 7. Why do you think that is? Because not just our veterans and our guys played up to their maximum potential, Rick Carlisle coached his ass off that series. He had a perfect game plan. And ultimately, the reason the team faded in Game 7 and we ended up getting waxed in Game 7 was just because eventually the discrepancy in talent caught up with us. We were asking Sean Marion, who was like 34, 35 at the time, we were asking him to like guard their best players. We were asking a ton. Like we were asking him like, hey, yo, you got to go deal and like bang bodies with Tim Duncan on this play. Now you got to go deal with Kawhi over here. Now you got to go deal with Tony Parker on a pick and roll. I mean, we were asking the world of them. This was not a Tyson Chandler year. This was a freaking Samuel Dallenberry year. And we pushed the eventual dominant champions to 7 games. Rick Carlisle is a straight G. He might be milquetoast and very plain spoken when it comes to the media and all that, but when it comes to the X's and O's, the man knows what he's doing. You give him the parts, you give him the tools, he will make something work. He will make a team work and get the maximum out of them. Now, can you have exceptions? Sure. You can have train wreck situations where you have a prima donna point guard like a Rajon Rondo. With Jason Kidd, for the record, when Jason Kidd came here and Carlisle was the coach before the title, they clashed. They clashed privately a lot. In fact, I read again about it not too long ago. They're best friends now that Kidd's retired, but before they won the championship, they had several private meetings because they clashed a lot, with Carlisle wanting to control everything and Kidd wanting to call the offense on the fly on the court, because Kidd is a general as a point guard and a floor general. And there was issues there. Now, they were able to bury the hatchet. Rondo and Carlisle were not, because Rondo, whereas I think Kidd had respect for and reverence for Carlisle to some extent, and he was willing to believe in him and place his trust in him, Rondo, because of coming in mid-season and the circumstances in which he did, I don't think he ever had that layer of respect for Rick, and I think it just washed out before it ever had a chance. Like, literally less than a month into Rondo being here, it was kind of going around like, I don't think this is going to work necessarily. It just happens. Of course, Lamar Odom, he freaking developed a coke habit here in Dallas, not because of the city or anything like that, but he had tragedy in his life, and he was dealing with depression, and he was busted at times, I think, with coke in the locker room even that year, is what we've heard since then. So, absolute train wreck for him, but more often than not, you give Carlisle the pieces, he will put it together and get the maximum return out of them. That's why I think the people who say, Rick Carlisle hasn't won anything since the championship. We ran off Avery Johnson way earlier than that, and he hadn't done anything. Avery Johnson got his ass out-coached in the finals. He got his ass out-coached the next year against his predecessor, Don Nelson, in the freaking 8-seeded Golden State Warriors. Yeah, their style of play was a nightmare matchup for Dallas, but nevertheless, Avery had reason for being let go. And he even had one more year after that where the Mavericks pulled off a 7-seed, got, I think, 50 wins to barely keep that streak alive. And that was the year they picked up Kidd, and they got waxed in the first round by the New Orleans Hornets at the time, led by a young Chris Paul and, hey, Tyson Chandler, the eventual Maverick. That's when they moved on from Avery Johnson. There was a track record there, and he had the parts, and he had never won a title. Rick hasn't had the parts, and Rick has won a title. I'm going to put my stock there as opposed to Avery Johnson, who went then to the Nets. He got a coach of the month 1 month, but flamed out. He's at Alabama now. Did he have another stop? I don't remember. But he's at Alabama last I heard. I got off on a tangent. Sorry. CJ McCollum and Yusef Nurkic for Dwight Powell, Tim Hardaway, Dorian Finney-Smith, 2020 first round. Is that enough to get the deal done to elevate us? I don't think McCollum is going to be part of the deal. I don't think I almost said the Pacers. The Trailblazers are interested in dealing him. He is their clear and true number 2 guy. They did take a risk giving him the size extension that they did, but I don't think that he would be part of the trade. As far as the parts we're sending back, we like Dwight Powell a lot, but I don't think around the league he has the kind of respect of a notable piece that we would think of him as. Tim Hardaway Jr. doesn't have a great resume. Dorian Finney-Smith would be a nice player, but they already have a player like him. They don't need him. They already have Al Farouk Aminu. They don't need Finney-Smith. As for a first rounder, I don't think it's enough to get the deal done. Gabe? Let's see here. Carlisle would outcoach the Thunder in 2016 if it wasn't for that much of a talent difference. Yeah. I also don't think Dirk, that first season off of the title, was the same Dirk, and so I don't know that would have been... the Dirk the year before was like Apex Dirk. That was Apex Predator Dirk. And the next year, I think some guys, and I don't mean this as a shot at Dirk at all. I love Dirk. Dirk is my freaking sports hero. But Dirk, he didn't have that killer instinct in the way that Kobe or maybe you would say like a Tim Duncan had. Like Dirk, he spent so many years building up and getting over that hill eventually that I don't think by any means that he took his foot off the gas, but I just don't think he had that same level of drive and determination where he was just hell bent anymore. I think had he won, let me put it this way. Had Dirk won in 2003, never had the knee injury against the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals, and I think it was game 2. If the Mavericks go on with a healthy Dirk to beat the Spurs and then beat the Nets, Jason Kidd's Nets, for their first championship in Dirk's 3rd full year, because he came in February 99, so it was the 99-2000 season, the 2000-2001 season, and the 2001-2002. So fourth year of Dirk. If he wins then maybe it's different, We don't know. What happens if he wins in 2006? Does he still have that drive and instinct? I don't know. And Dirk himself has said he doesn't know, obviously. But I don't know, man. I think Dirk post-title, he was still the GOAT in our hearts. I just don't think he had that same killer instinct. You were never going to see for any extended length of time that playoff run Dirk again, I don't think. Avery is out at Alabama, says AC Maverick 1899, and Rangers King. Got fired in Alabama because he was trash despite having Colin Sexton, Dante Hall in his first year, and Kira Lewis, Dante Hall in year 2. Buffalo head coach Nate Oates replaced him. Good to know. Who made the tourney last year and was top 25 ranked with Buffalo? Impressive. Ko, the kid. Yeah, Dirk was never the fierce scorer. That's why he never had a 60-point game. Yeah, he did have 53. It was his career high, and he hit 50 a couple other times. But yeah, Dirk's the GOAT. But it is one of those things for sure that I think post-title, you saw flashes of that guy. I don't think you ever saw that guy for any real extended period of time. But I digress. So let's see. I've been going, 53 minutes here. Okay. So we've been going 53 minutes here, so Mavs Fast Break has kind of answered itself. Let me check one thing real quick. I had someone else comment as well, I think, on a topic they wanted me to cover. Darth Crowther asking about Eric Holman and will he make the Lakers regret letting him go. He was a guy that for the Lakers to sign Dwight Howard, they had to clear a guy. Mavericks picked him up, Eric Holman. There's potential, but it's not anything that explodes off the page to me. Maybe Max could tell you better. He's more the deep prospect search guy like that. But I'd be interested. I'm not doing backflips over it, but I could see Carlisle squeezing some quality out of him potentially. That sounds dirty. But yeah, so that's going to pretty much wrap up the Mavs Fast Break. I already talked about the state of the channel. Mavs Fast Break will be moving. Let me run you through kind of the new schedule here. So Mavs Fast Break is going to be moving from Sundays to Wednesday nights. I understand that doesn't work ideally for everybody, but right now we are in that period of the Mavericks, calendar year where there's just not a whole lot going on. I have to also juggle the Dallas Cowboys season, as well as other things. So I'm going to have basically a packed schedule where every day I'm either writing an article, recording pre-recorded stuff for you guys to talk about whether it's college football or the Cowboys or the Mavericks or, whatever else. There's pop culture stuff I sprinkle in time every now and then as well. But Sundays, I'm usually finishing a Clutch Points article I started the day before on Saturday. Mondays in the morning, I'm going to be recording a Big 12 football roundup thing where I talk about all the Big 12 teams especially. I'm an Oklahoma guy, so I'm going to talk about that. But I will talk in depth about other storylines as well. Like, everyone's talking about Texas being back this year. I'm going to talk about and give you the rundown through all that, not just the not just the box scores, but also the games themselves and kind of how it went about, my analysis and my takes from it. Monday nights, generally, this is a wild card stream because you're going to have if the Cowboys play on like a Sunday, which most of the time they do, then the following night, Monday night, I'll do a stream to talk about the game, kind of my analysis and summary and everything from that game. Tuesdays, I have an article for Cowboys Experience I got to write. Wednesdays, I have at least one, if not two articles I got to write for Dallas Sports Fanatic. That could be a Cowboys or Mavericks article. I'll always share my Mavericks articles and Cowboys stuff with you guys in the community section if you want to see the links. You can also check them out on the DallasProspect.com, CowboysExperience.com, DallasSportsFanatic.com, ClutchPoints.com. I mean, my stuff is starting to spread out to a lot of different places at this point. Wednesday, so let's say not this coming Wednesday, because that's just a couple days away and we're still in a dark period. The following Wednesday, we'll have Mavs Fast Break in the evenings. It'll be a live stream still most of the time. Thursdays, I'm going to have another kind of wild card stream, but not in the sense of the floating Cowboys game reaction video, which could be a Monday, it could be a Thursday or a Friday if they play on Thursday, or it could be Tuesday if they play Monday. That's why that one's a wild card. But Thursday mornings, I'll also record some stuff as well where I could be either previewing the college football matchups like OU Texas, or it can be talking about like a big WWE pay-per-view or AEW, just whatever. Some of the fringe stuff that I sometimes work on, but not always. Friday, I got another Cowboys XP article, Cowboys Experience. And 5 o'clock on Fridays, I'm going to keep doing these live streams again with Law Nation when we talk Cowboys. Most of the time, we're going to be previewing that Sunday's coming game, but there are going to be times as well where if they play Thursday the day before, we're going to be reacting to that game before we change and pivot towards the upcoming week. And then, as I said, Saturdays is usually when I start that Clutch Points article. It takes me a couple days to write those because there's usually a lot more research and depth that goes into those articles for me. Since they're paying me, I want to make sure I'm giving them my absolute A game. So it's a packed schedule, man. I never have a day off where I'm not working and grinding and doing something here. The next few months for this channel are going to be huge. Like, in addition to me giving you guys more content than I've ever given you throughout the week, a lot of things that I have been working toward for the last 2 years, it's right there in front of me. I see the opportunity, and it's just my job to help this thing grow as much as I can between now and then so that I can convince the necessary people to buy into what we're doing and to basically believe in us like I believe in us and what you guys believe in. And then if that happens, I talked for 2 years about changing the game. And I said this at the start of the stream. I talked for 2 years about changing the game. And I never really defined what that meant because it's kind of an amorphous phrase that can mean something to different people. But for me, this is the culmination of what I've been working toward. Even before Prospect, I've been working towards this in some form or another for 4 or 5 years now. And it's there. So all I ask you guys to do is if you like the channel, subscribe. If you know other people who like Dallas sports, Mavericks, Cowboys, college football, whatever, share the channel with them. Share the channel to like Facebook groups or something. Like the video, just whatever. I'm not going to ask you guys. I'm not going to hit you over the head with this regularly. I'm just saying it now as a channel, state of the channel update. If you want to help us grow and help us get to that next level, that is the way to do it. Because if all this works out in 2020, as it referred to in the new theme open, as you heard, there's more than just me coming in this case. So there's a lot that I'm wanting to unveil, and if all this comes together, I'll be able to, but I don't want to say anything yet. So hang tight. Unless you guys got any immediate questions. Otherwise, I think I'm going to wrap up this stream. I've been going for about an hour now. Yeah, right about an hour. I forgot to turn on the stupid fan above me, so I'm sweating a little bit because with all these stupid box lights and everything on, it gets to be about 86 degrees in this stupid room. But it is what it is, man. I love it. Are you starting this coming Wednesday? No, it'd be the following Wednesday after that, I think. I don't think I'm going to do one this first Wednesday just because I'm settling into the new schedule and you're getting what would have been the Wednesday stream. You're getting it today instead. This is like the last Sunday Mavs Fast Break until the season kicks off, and then I'll see what I can do about moving it back into that rotation. For now, it's going to move to Wednesday nights. Wednesday nights probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock. I don't know as well what that means for Annie's availability. He and I don't live especially close to each other, and so there's going to be an element where he might have to be a call-in guest more, or it might just be he's not on for a little while until we move back to Sundays. I don't know. I'm going to work with you guys and try and do right by you guys as best as I can, but that's where we're at right now. What about the Mavs? Says Petro. Yeah, already. Yeah, all good. Yeah, well, that looks like that's all the questions. So, guys, thank you for tuning in. I will be back on here. I'll be recording stuff starting tomorrow. My Clutch Points article, for those who are interested, talks about the Cowboys and with the supposed pending new deal for Ezekiel Elliott. Once that deal is signed, basically, it's about how the team tries to turn its attention. Finally, set aside the distractions and all the potential hurt feelings that might have amassed over the course of Zeke's holdout and what his mouthpiece, Marshall Faulk, and guys like that were saying. Turning your attention, trying to put all that behind you because this coming year is crucial to the team. How they can go about doing that. That is my article. Should be dropping tomorrow. If it drops earlier than that, I'll share it with you guys. But hang tight. I'm going to drop that. And until then, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute.
Yeah. Siege. Riley. Taz. Yeah. Set me free and give me death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down to go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices. Little whispers in my head, man, is you fake a lawyer? Why no water, that designer, baby, pick your poison. These little demons living underneath my bed, creeping. Know the real monster lives above them all, sleeping. That subtle breathing in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again, looks can be deceiving. When they hear the sound of the drum, they'll be saying, oh Lord, here they come. Yeah, here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Here we come. I used to think that people die because they wicked. Nowadays, people wanna see you dead because you gifted. Been ready for my tomb since I came up out the womb. So no matter what, I'm coming back and paying you a visit. Saw it coming, I predicted, but y'all wouldn't listen. No, you can't protect your riches if you never burn bridges. Flip pages, went places, made changes, still dangerous. Now I'm back, altercation, hold still. I make it painless how it feel, baby. When you say you love me, is it real, baby? Full speed, both hands on the wheel, baby. Young Taz coming from the Mobile, baby. You know the drill, baby. Yeah. And when you hear the sound of the drum, we'll be saying, here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come.